Parev. Well, that's the way we say hello in Armenia. Hello, children. How are you people doing? I'm Saurabh Kumar Dutt, and I'm here to teach you people a little bit about probability. Here we'll be looking up what probability is, how we have probability of different cases which can be said to be having different values, and what is the restricting value. We will also be looking up what are odds in favor, odds against an event happening. Now, given that odds against or odds in favor given to you, how you will find out the probability of that case. We will also be looking up certain cases where probability can be found out using these methods. Now, before we start off and start discussing all of this, I will quickly like to introduce to you people this place. This is Yerevan Monastery, Yerevan, Armenia. This lovely place, which is breathtaking in natural beauty, is on the southwest coast of River Sevan. Here you will have a breath of fresh air as you've never had, and the smell of the adjacent flowers will be an odor that you'll remember for life. So make sure you be to this place and have a lovely time. Meanwhile, we'll be discussing about probability, and in intervention we will be looking up some good facts about Armenia, some funny things about Armenia. Then we'll also be looking up a lovely sweet dish which I'm going to serve you when you people are hungry after having a long lecture. So let's get started, and let's first discuss what probability is. Now children, whenever we talk about probability, do remember that probability is actually a measure of trying to know something when actually there is a lot which is unknown. So if we are trying to study, say, something which is not known, we call in probability. And when we talk about probability, normally the probability that we find out is known as the priori probability, and its definition is, if suppose we are to find out the probability of an event to happen, and that event is, say, some capital E, then here we will have that to be a fraction, and the fraction will be favorable number of cases, that is the number of cases which are possible for an event to happen, divided by the total number of cases. Now this total number of cases is also known as the sample space, right? So here we can also say that the sample space is a synonym of this total number of cases, right? So probability of an event happening will be equal to favorable number of events that can happen divided by the total number of events that can happen. For an example, if say we toss a coin twice and say we want 2 heads and we want to find out the probability, so we will write in the numerator the favorable number of cases. Obviously here this is going to be possible as we will have either heads, tails, or probably we'll have tails, heads. That means the first is what we've got after tossing the coin once, and the second result is the one that we've got after tossing the coin for the second time. Then we can have heads, heads, or we can even have tails, tails. So these are the all 4 cases which are possible. As such, this gives you your sample space, which can be depicted by S, right? Okay, so here that we have the sample space, we find that there is just one case which is favorable to be getting both the tosses to be coming to be heads, right? As such, here we talk about the probability of both to be heads, then it is going to be equal to one case which is favorable divided by total number of cases which is 4. As such, the probability of getting both to be heads will be 1 upon 4, right? So this is how actually we find out the probability, right? I'm sure there is one thing that you've noted. Can you tell me that? No? I'll tell you. There's something that you've seen here, that when we have talked about probability, it has actually come to be a fraction, right? And when we talk about a fraction, then we can actually think about different values which actually are going to be possible. That means, is it that probability will always be a fraction? Or is it possible that it can come out to be a whole number? Or is it from the set of real numbers? Now, to check that out, let us look up an event which we know is going to happen. Let's say if we go to a boys' school and we want to find out the probability of the number of boys in the class. Obviously, all the boys are going to be counted, and the total number of cases or the total number of events which are favorable to this will also be the same number of boys. As such, the probability is going to come to be 1. Or in other words, we can say that the probability of a sure case, right, is going to be the same number of cases which are favorable divided by the total number of cases which is also the same, that is n upon n. Or in other words, this is going to come out to be 1, right? Now this is what is maximum. What can be more than this? So when you talk about a sure event, it has the maximum probability. That is, the probability of the sure event is 1, and that, children, is the maximum value of probability. Now let us consider that we just consider the case which is antagonistic to this case. That is, if say we talk about an event so that we want to find the number of girls who are there in a class going inside a all boys schools class, right? So obviously we will not be able to see any number of girls. Very sad for the boys, but what to do, right? So let's say somebody goes inside and counts 40 number of boys and sees that there are no number of girls. So the favorable number of events to this case is actually 0, right? So if you talk about such a sort of an event, it is normally said to be an impossible event, right? Now the probability of an impossible event thus is going to be total number of cases which are favorable to it, which in this case sadly is 0, and in the denominator you will write the total number of cases that we had, that is 40 number of boys, which are the number of events which can happen for this case. And whenever in the fraction you have the numerator to be 0 and the denominator can be any number, the value of that fraction always comes out to be 0. As such, when we talk about the probability of an impossible event, it comes out to be 0. And what less can it be? This is something which was the maximum nothing, or in other words, what more can it be except nothing is there, right? So it's not possible that we go ahead. As such, we can say that when we talk about the minimum value of probability, it is going to be 0. And thus, whenever we talk about the probability of any case, you require to remember that it always lies between 0 and 1, right? So on one side is 0 and on the other side is 1. So the probability of an event is either equal to 0 or is more than 0 and is less than equal to 1. So this is an important thing that you should remember, that whenever we talk about the probability of any event that is happening, then the probability is something which should be between 0 and 1. And sometime if suppose you are getting the answer to be 7 upon 6, then for sure you can understand that this answer is incorrect, as this is an improper fraction. It'll have its value to be greater than 1, and that is not going to be possible for the value of probability of any event. So children, all of these things that we discussed, I will quickly discuss, and after that we will come to the main thing, that is finding out odds against and odds in favor of an event. So whenever we talk about probability, children, remember that the definition of probability actually gives us a fraction, that probability of an event E happening is equal to favorable number of cases divided by the total number of cases. So the favorable number of cases will be those cases in which the event that you're wanting to happen can happen, right? And total number of cases are those where whatever are the total number of cases for any condition, right, all of those are to be counted, and that is known as the sample space, and it is normally depicted by capital S. So here we considered a case where we wanted, in a toss of a coin twice, 2 heads to come. So we looked up all the cases, that is HT in the first toss, heads in the second toss, tails, then TH, HH, TT. These were all the cases which were possible. Now if you were to take that case which is favorable, that is HH, as here both the toss of the coins is going to give you a head, right? So when you divide the favorable number of cases by the total number of cases, which is 4 in number, the sample space, you will get the probability of getting 2 heads in the toss of the coin twice. So probability of this event is going to come to be 1 upon 4. And as you see that this is a fraction, so there is a question which comes to your mind, that is it that probability of an event is always going to be a fraction? For that, what you do is you take up that event where it is a sure event. Obviously that is going to give you the maximum value of probability. What more can it be than an event to actually happen? Nothing more than that is possible. So here we picked up a case where we talked about the number of children in a class which were boys in an all-boys school, right? So let's say we go to Doon school and we count the number of boys which are there in a class. We will find that that will be equal to the total number of children in the class, and as such the numerator and the denominator, that is the favorable number of cases and the total number of cases, will remain to be the same. They will cancel each other. As such, the probability of the sure event is going to be 1. Right? Now if we talk about the other case, that is the probability of the impossible event, then what do we do is we will try and find out such a case which is just not possible, right? And obviously that is the least value which is possible, or the maximum you can say in the negative direction which is possible. That means the least, right? And here as such you can consider just the opposite case, that is to find out the number of girls which are there in a class, in a all-boys school's class. So obviously if you go and try and count, you will find that all of the candidates, all of the events are actually boys. As such, the number of girls becomes equal to 0, right? Okay, and in the denominator you will be writing the total number of cases which are possible, which actually will be the number of boys which are present in the class, and if there be 40, so 40 will be the sample space. And in the numerator, as you've got no girl, thus none being the number of girls, you have the numerator to be 0, that is the favorable number of cases is 0. As such, 0 upon 40 will become equal to 0, that is the probability of an impossible event comes to be 0, and there is nothing less which is possible. Excuse me. So do remember that whenever you talk about the probability of an event, it always lies between 0 and 1, including 0 and 1. Obviously it's going to be 0 for an impossible event, and it is going to be 1 for a sure event. Now if you talk about the probability of any other event which is happening, then it has to have its probability between 0 and 1, like 0.4, 0.37, 0.93. Okay, so Rehan, you tell me, is it possible that the probability be minus 0.7? This is a value which is fractional. So is this possible? You say it's possible, it's just not possible. Come on. It has a negative sign before it. That means if we talk about the real number line, then on the real number line, we will have this number to be on the left side, right? And as it is going to be on the left side of 0, thus we will say that it is going to be lesser than 0. And as we've looked up, the least value which is possible is actually 0, right? So here, if say we have this to be the real number line, this say is 0, and if say we talk about a point which is minus 0.7, as you see that it is on the left side of 0, and 0 being the least value which was possible, as such we are just going to take values from 0 to 1. We can't take any more value except the values which are between 0 and 1. As such, probability of any event to happen to be minus 0.7 is something which is not possible. That means it has to be always positive, it has to be greater than 0, and it has to be less than 1, right? Okay, now we talk about the next topic, that is we want to find out the odds in favor and odds against. Now, before we get started, I will quickly tell you people something which is really amusing about Armenians. Now, it is said that Armenians believe that whatever inventions have happened all about the world, it is actually Armenians who've done it. This is a joke. I don't know how much true this is, but this is on my finding that I got, that normally this is what Armenians tend to think, that whatever inventions have happened, they think that it is actually Armenians who have done it. For that matter, the joke also says this, that anybody who is really important in this world, the Armenians consider that they must be having Armenian blood. Okay, if they are actually thinking this is, something which cannot be acceptable and is really laughing stock. Well, so this was something funny which I got to see and hear in Armenia. After this now, children, we will be discussing the next thing, that is we are now going to talk about odds in favor and odds against. Now, why is it that I bring in some international flavor in my classes? That is because otherwise, if you talk about mathematics, normally I'll say even more than 90% of the children, they are least interested in mathematics. So that you people get interested, I just bring these interesting stories, these nice lovely places, so that you people are attracted. You start studying, and then when I am teaching you people in such a way so that is from a scratch to a high level, so automatically you start understanding things. And when you start understanding things, grasping things, and in times to come when you're also able to do sums, you develop confidence as baby steps, and automatically what happens is you develop an interest in this subject which normally you were keeping it to be studied for the last moment, and finally what happens is you flunk in this subject, or probably you get very little marks. So that is why I bring in this international color, so that you people are really amazed, you people are overjoyed to have all of this during studies. Moreover, the study becomes very light, and as such, doing the study becomes enjoyable and something which has less weight. Okay, so getting back to odds against or odds in favor. Now, I'm sure you people must have heard this terminology if you talk about certain horse races, right? That is in race courses. So if you talk about a black horse and you want to know the odds in favor, or you want to know the odds against it to be losing, then you are told a fraction. Now, what is it actually is, if suppose there is something which can happen in, say, m number of ways, and it cannot happen in, say, n number of ways. So if you talk about the odds in favor, the number of events by means of which it can happen, right, that will be in the numerator, and in the denominator the number of ways by means of which it won't happen will be in the denominator. For that matter, if say we say that 4 events are suitable for horse 7 to win, right, and 6 events are suitable for others to win, right? So the favorable number of cases to horse 7 winning becomes equal to 7, right? I'm sorry, it becomes equal to 4. 7 is its number, right? And the ways by means of which it will not happen is 6, right? Now you'll further simplify this fraction such that the only common factor between them is 1, right? So 2 2s is 4 and 2 3s is 6. Thus 2 upon 3 will become what? Will become the odds in favor, right? And very simple, from this you can find out the odds against. That means if you want the odds against, you will just find out the reciprocal of this fraction, right? And that's going to be the invertendo, right? When you do proportion in times to come, if you have a equality or a proportion, so you will just write the reciprocal ratio here. So 3 upon 2 will be the odds against, right? So we've just looked up one case where we looked up odds against and odds in favor. So if suppose there be a event which can happen by, say, some m number of times, where m is 4 here, and the event will not happen by n number of times, right, n number of ways by means of which it won't happen. So if you want to find out the odds in favor, so the favorable cases will be kept in the numerator and the unfavorable cases will be kept in the denominator, right? And if say you want to find out the odds against, then the unfavorable number of cases is going to be kept in the numerator and the favorable number of cases is going to be kept in the denominator, and thus the reciprocal ratio of the odds in favor will give you the odds against. So this is how you find out the odds in favor or the odds against. Now how do we find out the probability given some odds in favor or odds against being given to you? So obviously, as you know that whenever we talk about the probability of an event, we actually talk about the favorable number of cases which is divided by the sample space, right? So we will find out what the favorable number of cases are, and then we will divide it by the sample space to find out this. So obviously, like if we talk about this case, if you want to find out the probability of the horse number 7 to lose, right, and say we represent it by a complement, that is horse 7 is going to lose, is whose probability we want to find out. So obviously the number of cases which are favorable for it to lose are 6 in number, because for these 6 cases any of the other horses can win, right? Okay, so what do we here is we keep for this 6 in the numerator, and in the denominator, remember, we now have to keep the sample space, that is the total number of cases. The total number of cases is 4 plus 6, right? So here if we divide 6 by 6 plus 4, which is 10, we will get the probability of the horse number 7 to lose. And again here there are two common factors which are going to be cancelled. 2 3s is 6 and 2 5s is 10. So as such, the probability of the horse 7 to lose will be 3 upon 5. Right? So I'll quickly tell this to you. If you are given odds in favor and odds against some case, right? So let's say we have the odds in favor of the horse 7 to be winning, right? So if you find the reciprocal of it, then that will be the odds against, right? So the number of cases which are against are 3, and the number of cases which are for are 2, right? Here we are talking about the horse 7 to win, right? So in order to find it out, what we do is, if say we talk about this to be say some m upon n, right? Then if we are to find out the favorability, rather the probability of horse 7 to lose, so it can lose by m ways, and in the denominator we want the sample space. That means all the ways in which the event can happen, so that obviously is m plus n. So this is going to give us the probability of the horse 7 to lose, which is 3 divided by 3 plus 2, which is 5, and that is what we do. Now here we've done it by the way probability is dealt with, that is we've talked about the favorable number of cases. Now if you talk about the favorable number of cases here, then 6 other ways by means of which the horse 7 can lose. As such, 6 will be in the numerator, and in the denominator you will have the total, that is the sample space, which will be 6 plus 4, that is 10. As such, 6 upon 10, that is cancelling of the common factors, this will come to 3 upon 5. That is what you got if you did it by this method, right? I'll just quickly explain again. If suppose you got to find out from odds in favor or odds against, which has been given to you, the probability of some event. So here we have the odds in favor, that is 2 upon 3, and if you require odds against, obviously you will write the reciprocal of this ratio. So 3 are the ways by which the horse 7 won't win, right? So that becomes your numerator, because that's a favorable number of cases. In other words, you can say that this is 3x, right? And the total number of ways by means of which the events will happen will be the ones which are for and the ones which are against. So 2x plus 3x will become 5x, where the common factor x will get cancelled, and now you will get 3 upon 5, which will become the probability found out from odds against, right? Okay, so now if you want to find out the probability this way, what you'll do is you'll keep the favorable number of cases, which in this case was 6, divided by the total number of cases, which will be 6 plus 4, that is ones for and the others for against, right? So 6 upon 10 will give you that, and here further, if you cancel out the common factor 2, you will get 2 3s is 6 and 2 5s is 10. So 3 upon 5 will become now the final answer for finding out the probability of the horse 7 not winning. So is all of this clear? For sure.